We'll start in 3, 2, and 1. Which side is actually able to provide the best quality education to students? And because by this, we actually mean teaching them to have patient skills and the ability to focus on a topic for a longer period of time. And they're able to understand the core concept of materials that they're actually learning. And most importantly, allowing them to engage with the subject instead of distracting themselves with breaks or simply their surroundings or with shorter lessons. Our site effectively outlined the above, and proposition can't continue seeing how students on their side are enjoying lessons, they enjoy school, and they actively engage themselves in games, breaks, etc. Instead, the real issue that proposition should prove to us to even understand this debate is, number one, how students on their side will develop the necessary skills, and will they truly solve the root cause, or simply look at the face level by saying that providing them with something easy right now is actually the solution. Before that, let's come to one of some of the most important clashes in this debate. First of all, the first clash here is on effectivity in learning. This includes attention span and, most importantly, students' engagement in the learning material. Because on our side, how we actually have better attention span is simple. Students can have better attention span. The problem here is not their ability, but it's actually their environment and who they surround themselves with, which our first and second speaker has clearly outlined how when students, they focus more on deep learning methods and they focus on, for example, focused readings activities, they can actually learn more rather than just watch or continuously watch short videos or images that are shown in classes and have continuous breaks. Therefore, the solution here is not to actually shorten the lesson in the first place. The solution is the environment itself, right? As we have told you very clearly, when students are surrounded with peers all studying for exams, for example, they will instantly look back at themselves and improve for the better, because environment matters a lot, and our site has been able to prove this in the first place. Students engage, and that is, for our side, how we actually have better attention span. Now come back to their side. What do they say to us throughout this entire debate? First of all, they said that their better education system happens when they align with learners' ability. This is a very vague statement from proposition, since a short attention span isn't the solution to a student's different abilities. Short attention span, we believe here, is not a fixed ability. It can be changed and it can be fixed based on the environment that students surround themselves with. It is simply a habit that students, they develop through their childhood or learn from peers or their surroundings, as we have mentioned very clearly before. Just because many students, they struggle to conform or they struggle to study some excessive studying materials at school doesn't necessarily mean that we ourselves should conform to it, and we should organize short attention span activities, for example, like continuous breaks or using audiovisual stimuli or bite-sized content. Further, because what this do is that this will further ingrain in their mind that they're a slow learner and they need to learn slower from peers. Similarly, if education, we believe here the main core of education is to train the mind to stay focused instead of weakening it, because proposition is just weakening the brain by providing fun activities, by providing audiovisual videos, and most importantly, shorten the lesson into bite-sized content. Sure, they may say that students can still solve difficult math problems. The problem here is that they shorten the lesson, and by shortening the lesson and by adding breaks between lessons continuously, this will disrupt their learning altogether. Before we move on, we'll take one point. Okay, I think we have explained really clearly on how your side is simply bad just because you just simply shortening the lesson. On our side, we actually have an environment, right? Because just simply comparing on their side, they surround students with a lot of fun activities. Sure, students might enjoy this at the first place, but this is simply solving the problem at the root level, at the phase level, I mean, and we'll further explain this in our classes. Secondly, they say that students sometimes fail to perform and they can't concentrate. It's important to understand understand that what is easy will not always work, right? Because we have said that just because they struggle doesn't mean we should make learning slower for them. In fact, some short form content or side-by content, as proposition says, can actually worsen the workload because students, they just continuously learn without enough depth in a lesson. Like a depth in a lesson really matters because students are able to grasp the lesson. What their study is promoting is simply short attention span, because okay, if they say that they shorten the lesson, for example, this lesson students can easily learn in 45 minutes, but they shorten it into 2 days or into 3 days. So this means that like students don't have enough time to actually grasp the lesson. On our side, we have environment and we're able to provide this for students. And let's also not forget about exams too. As we have mentioned before, exams are an important part, and we believe that how are propositions supposed to better prepare students for exam when they continuously shortening the lesson, or they move into the prevalence of short attention span method. Also, they say to us that students, they're unwilling to engage and their overload leads to cramming and they can't take in the information. Proposition is simply missing the point because there's lack of focus is a symptom and other issues. For example, they learn like lack of focus means it can be from devices, it can be from lack of sleep, or it can be some other studying habits, and it's not actually a reason to actually move into the prevalence of short attention span, because what students need isn't actually less focus, isn't actually shorter lesson. It's what students need right now is mindfulness. It's actually progressive difficulty task in their learning. And they also say that they also mention students with ADHD or some students with slower or who develop slower themselves. As mentioned above, we clearly outlined how proposition is simply just looking at the phase level, because we've clearly mentioned and proved how pressure is a normal part of education. Students have to deal with homework, deadlines, and tasks all the time. And yes, nobody agrees that focused reading or long work is easy, but those are simply what students have been endured with in the status quo. And that's why our stance is simple. Pressure creates diamonds, and building resistance actually takes time. You cannot just expect students to overcome pressure by providing them with shorter lessons or with like leaning in the prevalence of short attention span. And if proposition only ever gives student fun, visual audio study, they simply teaching kids to avoid challenge altogether. So if we truly want students to stop cramming and actually actually learn the knowledge they needed, we should actually address it directly to the problem. And the biggest flaw of proposition is actually they just simply solve the problem at phase level, and they make learning simpler for students without looking at the issue of tests to higher grades, considering the competitiveness in the global world nowadays. Very proud to oppose.